Hello and welcome to this Board of Supervisors. Today, May 19th, 2021. It is 7:35 and we're ready to get started. Today to call in, you're going to dial 646-558-8656 and enter meeting ID 230-936-1902, followed by the hash or pound sign. And I will pass this meeting today off to Chair Blundy.
Thank you, Monica. Thank you, everyone, and welcome to our meeting. I call it to order, and I would ask that you join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay. With that, we'll call the roll. James, are you here?
Yes, ma'am.
Dan?
Present.
Fred?
Here.
As am I. Mr. Lewis is not yet here, but we do expect him, so we will continue right along. Just a reminder that public comment on agenda items will be taken as each item is discussed. And as Monica has said it earlier already, please recall there's a little bit of a delay. So as we're coming up to your agenda item, please feel free to call in. With that, number 4, COVID-19 update. Kurt?
Thank you.
Where'd you go?
I don't know. Sorry. We are planning to open the township facilities, all of our buildings, on June 15th. That would include the community center, public works area, the main administrative building. We will be releasing in advance of that guidance. So that is the tentatively scheduled date to reopen. I would imagine that our first meeting in June will be providing more details regarding any rules that we'll have for those entering and working in the building at that time. But that's all I have. Thanks.
Thank you, Kurt. And agenda item number 5, Monica, community announcements.
How does that do that?
Agenda, please remember that youth organizations may call in and make special announcements or contact the township at admin@lmt.org to request a special announcement be added to the agenda. I should change this. Parks and Recreation digital and in-person recreation opportunities are now available. Please register online, and the website is right here on how to register. You can find that also on the agenda or on the lmt.org website. Bucks County Senior Games registration is open. There will be a variety of in-person and virtual events. To register, visit Bucks County Area on Aging or dial 267-880-5700. And pool registration is open. We open in 10 days, 10 days. Get your registration in today so we can see you on May 29th. And that's all I have for community announcements.
Thank you. Do any of the other supervisors have any announcements? Yes, Dan.
Yes, I got a couple. First off, if you didn't see the news posted on Facebook, I gotta say, and I think the whole board will back me up on this one, congratulations to Sarah Hogan of Lower Makefield. She is Bucks County's first female Eagle Scout ever. She's also part of the first national inaugural class of female Eagle Scouts. Huge accomplishment. She's only a freshman at Bucks County Technical High School and already has achieved the rank of Eagle Scout. I got to attend the ceremony this past weekend, held at the VFW. Thank you to them for hosting. Great event, great group of people, and Sarah's an impressive young woman. So congratulations to her. That was awesome. Second one, another thank you to the EAC and Exact Solar for hosting yet another styrofoam and wine cork recycling event this past weekend. I stopped by when dropping off my ballot, and it was well attended. Again, they filled up another couple of Exact Solar trucks. So thank you to Zach Solar, our EAC award winner this year for continuing the work. And then I would be remiss, like last month, I have to say happy birthday to my daughter. That's 2 months in a row I have a daughter with a birthday, so if she's watching, happy birthday, sweetie. And that's it for me.
Anybody else? Okay, then moving along to agenda item number 6. Welcome, John. To consider approval of the minutes for May 5th, 2021. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Thank you, James.
Second.
Thank you, John. Is there any discussion? Any public comment?
No public comment.
With that being said, all those in favor of the motion, please signify by saying aye and raising their hand.
Aye.
Aye.
Motion carries 5-0. Agenda item number 6, the treasurer report. Fred?
All right. I make a motion to approve the interfund transfers for May in the amount of $1,257,328.66.
Second.
Any discussion? Any public comment?
No public comment.
With that, I'll call the question. All those in favor of the motion, please signify by saying aye, raising your hand. Aye.
Aye.
Motion carries 5-0.
I'm going to make a correction on that. Excuse me. The interfund transfers are $1,021,716.20.
So,
I'd second the motion.
I mixed up the numbers.
so you're, technically, we're amending the motion. The amendment's accepted. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye and raising your hand.
Aye.
Aye. Aye. The amended motion passes. Thank you so much, Fred.
And the warrant list for May, I make the motion to approve the amount of $1,257,328.66.
Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you, Dan. Any discussion? Any public comment?
No
There's
public
no-
comment.
Oh, stereo. Thank you both. With that, I call the question. Please, all those in favor of the motion, please signify by saying aye, raising your hand.
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries 5-0. Agenda item number 8, we have a sewer engineer report. Is Fred around, Kurt?
Monica, is Fred in here?
Yes, we're pulling him in right now.
Hello, everybody. Can everybody hear me? Sorry about that.
Yes.
So, all right, yes, we have actually 3 items on my agenda. I was going to follow the same format. I don't know if Kurt has my PowerPoint presentation ready to go. Just had to re-email it to him.
Monica, do you have that?
We'll bring it up in just a moment.
We're getting it queued up right now. It's coming up.
There you go.
All right, following the same format, we're going to provide an update on the currently working projects and then have a recommendation to award the first 2 of 4 bids, or the first 2 of 4 projects for the 2021 I&I projects. So if we go to the next screen, contract SWR 20, which is our Jordan Place pipeliner project. Contractor is down to 2 minor punch list items of just growing some grass, and that will close out that contract very successfully. Next item. The sewer manhole rehabilitation. All punch list items are completed. We're just processing the final payment request to release the held with chainage. Next screen, please. Brookstone Pump Station. This is all complete. We have 1 minor punch list item, which I believe was being completed today. And we will process the final payment request to release all the retainage on that one for next month as well. Next screen, please. Stackhouse Pump Station. We're coordinating with the property owners on the tree removal. All the equipment is now scheduled for delivery, or the contractor has. And we will go to full construction schedule once all the trees are removed on that job, which should be completed in about another month. The next one is a contract for consideration to be awarded tonight by the board. We received 3 bids. The bids range from $27,994 to $49,850. The engineer's estimate was $32,532.50, which is below the budget and allows us a 10% area for any change orders that were to happen. The authority recommended for approval of this last Thursday. The low bidder is Mr. Rehab LLC. Solicitor's office has reviewed this. Once again, the bid is below our budgeted amount. The engineer's estimate fell in the range of bids, which tells us that everyone understood the bid. The 2 lowest bidders were within 9% of each other. And we have extensive experience working with this bidder in other townships, and he's provided quality work. So our recommendation is to award the contract to Mr. Rehab LLC in the amount of $27,994.
Is there a motion?
So moved.
Thank you, Fred. Second?
Second.
Thank you, James. Any discussion? Any public comment?
Suzanne,
All right. Yes, go ahead, Dan. Sorry.
no, I was just verifying this was in the 2021 budget.
Yes, it was.
Was this a carryover from 2020 or is this just 2021?
This is 2021. No, this is a new budget.
Okay.
Any public comment?
There's just a public comment on C, it looks like. So I think
Okay.
we're not there yet.
Okay. So no public comment on this
No
motion?
public comment on this.
With that, I'll call the question. All those in favor of the motion, please signify by saying aye and raising your hand.
Aye.
So that was John. I'm sorry. Did you raise your hand?
No, I'm a no, I think.
Okay, so 3, 4. All those opposed, please signify by raising your hand.
No.
2 against. So Dan and John against the motion. The motion passes 3-2. Moving on.
Next screen, please, Kurt. This is the second contract for your consideration tonight. This is for the Jordan Place Pipeliner. Once again, we got incredible bids on this. It was a very, very competitive market out there, and I was very happy with the bids, and as well as the contractor that received it. We received 6 bids, which is, there's really only about 8 to 10 contractors that actually bid on this work. So to get that many of them and their attention, it's pretty impressive. The range of bids was from $297,369 to a high of $533,000. The budget was $401,750,000. Our engineer's estimate was at $394,818, and we actually lowered the bid price from what we had used in 2020 because we were under the budget there. And once again, even though construction costs are rising through the roof, these guys just competitively bid it. This was reviewed by the authority last Thursday night, and they recommended award of this contract. Once again, the lowest bidders were within 10% of each other. The engineer's estimate fell right in the middle of the range of bids. And there was definitely a wide range of bids received. One of the reasons that we believe that this contractor was awarded it is he's very close to Freehold, New Jersey. So he doesn't have a lot of travel time or any expenses, whereas many of the other contractors, have to have their employees stay overnight in hotels. And the other thing was that there is a lot of access to residential yards for construction with bypass pumping, and they are fully responsible for any restoration of any disturbance they have. So I think that led to it. But once again, we are recommending the award of the contract to Vortex Services LLC in the amount of $297,369.
Is there a motion?
So moved.
Thank you, Fred. Second?
Second.
Thank you, James. Any discussion? Yes, Dan?
So, Mr. Ebert, this is over $100,000 under the 2021 budget, right?
Yes.
Yeah. So that's about 25% below budget, which is great when you look at any budget, right? What percentage of the overall 2021 sewer budget does this project represent? It's a hefty project. It's obviously not the only one, but one of or if it's like one of 6 projects or something like that generally.
It's one of 4 projects.
4.
And it is probably 25%.
Okay. So we're looking at it, if the remaining ones go anywhere near the same way, we're looking at a significant savings underneath the 2021 budget. We still have to address that, but
Potentially, I'll be honest with you, I am worried about the Silver Lake bid coming in over budget just because of the cost of materials for mechanical things is going up. So I was actually very happy to see this bid down at this price. Kirk, if you go back, down here, because I'm expecting that bid probably to come under. We tried our best, but honestly, costs have gone up probably 20 to 30% in the mechanical field since we prepared the budget last September. So, but yes, right now it is there, and it's a welcome thing to have a little bit of cushion going into the next 2 bids.
yeah. We saved what, $120K last year on sewer projects for the 2020 budget?
Yes, it was approximately that. Yes.
Okay.
And we had to rebid one, and it still went over. So our net savings was probably around 75 because we had to adjust the budget. We were 120 below budget on the contracts, and then the Stackhouse pump station had to get rebid. And I think that went up by around 50 to 60,000. So we're probably netting 50 to 75,000. We netted under budget last year and had almost no change orders on all the projects so far.
Thanks. That's it.
Any other discussion? Any public comment, Monica?
There's no public comment on this item.
With that, I'll call the question. All those in favor of the motion, please signify by saying aye and raising your hand.
Aye.
James, Fred, and myself with the aye. All those opposed, signify by raising your hand. Thank you. Dan and John with the no. I'm inserting words into their mouth based on their hands. Motion carries 3-2. Next item.
Yep, next screen is just an update on the 2 bids that will be coming up on your June 2nd meeting. The first one is Buck Creek Interceptor Cured in Place Pipeliner. This is another budgeted project. Bids are due on May 26th. The authority will review the bids and make a recommendation on May 27th. And this will be eligible for your consideration or available for your consideration on June 2nd. Kirk, next slide, please. The last contract, which is a Silver Lake pump station upgrade. Once again, this is a pump station's end of its mechanical life. And there's a lot of emergency or bypass pumping that we're going to install to help, in the future as well on that. Once again, this is a budgeted 2021 item. Bids are due again on May 26th. The authority will review them on May 27th, and it will be eligible for your consideration on June 2nd. Does the board have any questions on the 2 upcoming projects that will be bid?
Fred, I just want to repeat what I think I heard you say earlier. This is the one more so than anything else that's causing you concern about that where you anticipate the estimates coming in or the bids coming in?
Absolutely it is.
Okay.
Like I said, when we prepared the budget with Kurt last year, we were in a different bidding environment for mechanical work and pipe supplies. I mean, simply a T fitting that last year costs around $2,500, costs over $12,000 now for the same exact fitting. And that's without paying for expedited. So we are definitely, and we tried to back in and keep it as close to budget as we can, and I don't know. I mean, maybe we get a good bidding environment, but I will tell you that I've probably personally called 15 contractors to get interest in, just to increase the competitive nature of this bid. So this is the one that I'm honestly nervous about, just with the change in economy.
Well, we'll know soon enough. Thank you.
Yep. That's it for here. I do have another agenda item.
Okay.
The next agenda item on mine is item C, which is the motion to consider a resolution of adoption for the Prickett Preserve Sewage Facilities Planning Module. The purpose of the planning module is to provide planning within the township for high projects. And this allows for the certification of capacity and review by the Township Planning Commission, County Planning Commission, and County Health Department to make sure that this is in the best interest of Lower Makefield Township as it goes through. There are 3 reasons why this is a planning module. The first reason is that we are under a connection management plan. Because the township has successfully completed all the items in its corrective action plan, the DEP and Bucks County Water and Sewer Authority have released the 427 EDUs for this. That was only possible for us to get that large amount of additional EDUs released by complying with it. And that's why we've done the 2020 and 2021 I&I projects, as well as the pump station upgrades. That's made us eligible. The second item is that this project will involve a pump station on the property, which will require a water quality management permit. That also triggers a full planning module. The third reason is that the number of units proposed by this development is in excess of 250, which requires a planning module. We have reviewed the plan. All capacity certifications have been done. All outside agency reviews have been completed. The 30-day public notice has been completed, and there were no public comments received during that time frame. So what's up for consider? And Ebert Engineering, we have reviewed it and issued a letter of recommendation to approve it, dated May 13th, 2021. So I'm here to answer any questions that the board has on this planning module. And then if the board is so inclined, for them to consider adopting this planning module by resolution and authorizing it to be forwarded to the PA DEP for review. It will go through a thorough review at the PA DEP. There will most likely be comments on it that will come back that will need to be addressed by the applicant. But I'm here to answer any questions that the board may have on this, unless the applicant has anything else that they would like to add.
We have nothing at this point to add. Thank you very much.
So Dave, just remind me, would be the correct order be discussion first or the motion first? You're on mute.
Yeah, it would be to make a motion to approve the resolution for adoption of the Prickett Preserve Sewage Facilities Planning Module, and then discussion ensue after that.
Okay, is there a motion? Thank you, Fred. Second?
Make motion to consider the resolution of adoption for the Prickett Preserve Sewage Facilities Planning Module.
Second?
Second.
I think,
Whoever.
thank you, James. Thank you, Dan. Okay, is there any discussion? Yes, Dan.
Who was I? I'm not sure who I was going to ask this. Maybe it's Mr. Ebert. Maybe it's Kurt. I think when this first came up, this involves a new pump station, correct? At Prickett Preserve.
That is correct.
And that's part of it. So, I'm looking at the PUC website and see that Aqua submitted their application on the 14th, and why that applies is I'm still trying to figure out whether or not that asset was included in the sale agreement up front, or if that's something that was added later that we should address.
It was
that particular fund.
It was fully disclosed to them and included in them that this is an asset that will be dedicated either to the township or if the sale happens first, it would be dedicated to Aqua Pennsylvania. So they were aware of the customers, of the infrastructure that was going to be installed, both on-site, including the pump station, off-site force main. So that was all included from the very beginning. And then as we received updated information, it's gone through. The pump station plans and review letters have actually also gone to Aqua as a courtesy review, although it's still on our purview. But that way, there's no question on when, if they complete the transaction and take over, they know exactly what they're getting. It meets their standards, and the asset was already included in the asset evaluation.
So I guess the other so AUS Consultants, the firm that did our financial assessment, included that in their original valuation of the system, and it wasn't.
I don't know when it was included in there. I know I included it in my engineer's assessment. I know that we had included the fact that there was a pump station on that during that time. Whether AUS included it, I can't speak to that. But I do know that Aqua is considering it an asset now.
Okay, so I have no problem approving this for Prickett. I just, since we have the whole team here, I'd like to see AUS check the AUS valuation report to make sure this was included in the valuation, to make sure that if it wasn't, that we get reimbursed for an asset that we take on after the valuation occurred.
Let me start with that. I hear your point. I guess I would ask Fred this question. This won't be an asset that we have until they build, which I would imagine would be 2022 or 2023. So I don't know how that plays in with what you're requesting, Dan.
It's sort of like a guaranteed inheritance, right? If I know I'm getting it, and I'm not going to just give it to someone. If I know I'm going to have an asset, you know what I mean? I believe it's about a $600,000 pump station, if memory serves.
Probably. It's not an asset though until it's at least escrowed in there. And as far as Pennsylvania American, and I don't want to speak too much out of turn, it's not an asset until it's in the ground and being utilized by customers. So we have disclosed it, we have included it, and included the value of it. But whether or not, that's up to the PUC and the evaluation experts as to whether or not that can be included. I can't speak to that honestly.
Now, Fred, I think it was a slip of the tongue. I just want to make sure you mentioned Pennsylvania American just now. I'm assuming
sorry.
you meant Aqua. No, I know. I do it too. I do it too. I just want to make sure I didn't miss anything.
No,
okay.
No, it's still Aqua Pennsylvania.
I got you. I have no issue with with approving what we're talking about now. I'm just concerned about that particular issue.
Any other discussion? Any public comment, Monica?
Yes, Zach is on the line.
Excellent. Can you bring him in?
I'm in now.
Zach, please state your full name and name and address for the record.
Zachary Rubin, 1661 Covington Road. My question is to the Board of Supervisors. Why doesn't the developer pay for any improvements on their project, such as sewage? Why does the township have to do this?
We're not.
The township is not paying for it.
Hold on. We're not paying for any sewer improvements. We have to account for this and amend our 537 plan, because we have a 537 as part of this, whether it was this project or any other. So the township isn't incurring an expense for that. This is all on the developer.
So let me I'm sorry, just to clarify it, the $600,000 for this pumping station, the developer is paying for it.
Correct.
Thank you for that clarification.
Zach, are you done? Dan, are you waving your hand?
Yeah, I am, only unless Mr. Rubin wants to continue speaking. Kurt brought up a good point that I hadn't thought of. In terms of having to update the 537 plan, Are we escrowing money with the developer to cover the cost of the township updating our 537 plan?
This planning module is actually the update to the Act 537 plan, and it's being fully paid for out of the developer's professional service agreement.
That's what I like to hear. Thank you.
Monica, is there any other public comment?
Yes, Lee is on the line.
Excellent. Come in.
Lee, please press *6 to unmute.
Good evening, Lee.
Good evening.
You know the
Okay,
drill.
I beat you. Yeah, Lee Pedowitz, 247 Truman Way, Yardley. I was just wondering, I keep hearing this pumping station being considered an asset. Since it's just going to be, from what I understand, it's just servicing that Wegmans and the apartments buildings in there. So it really shouldn't be an asset for the town. And I think you explained that it's not. Is that correct?
At this point, it wouldn't be deemed an asset. Eventually, it would be an asset once it became functional and there was customers that it was servicing. But at this point, it would not be an asset.
So once it goes into service, it'll be, even though it's just servicing that one little island within Lower Makefield Township, it will be considered a township asset. Is that correct?
It would be dedicated to whomever owned the sewer system at that time.
Oh, okay. And just one other question. I was just wondering, I'm hearing about these planning. What happens if, I imagine the sewer system is adequate to, the sewer infrastructure is adequate to handle the Wegman development and the apartment buildings in there. What happens if there's future development in that area? Is there any contingency plan in this planning report?
No, the planning report is only identifies what's there. The overall Township Act 537 plan evaluates future flows that would be tributary to these sanitary sewer lines. And as part of the Sewage Facilities Planning Act for this planning module, capacity has to be certified by Lower Makefield Township for the lines that are within Lower Makefield Township. And then the conveyance system that's owned by Bucks County Water and Sewer Authority has to certify capacity for that. And the actual treatment for this is down to the city of Philadelphia, and they also certify capacity for that. So any project that goes through requires to have capacity certified for them. And in our case, we're under a connection management plan. So there's an extra level of scrutiny where DEP is also reviewing this and managing these flows to ensure that the public sewer service area can be adequately serviced and not overload any existing or proposed pipes.
Okay. So it's basically your studies are for what's going to be existing. So let's say in the future, somebody wants to develop the Shady Brook property. They'd have to go through all these plans. And if the sewer system is deemed inadequate, they'd have to put something in there.
That's correct. They would have to do the required upgrades to provide the required capacity.
Okay, great. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Lee. Monica, next caller.
There is no further public comment.
Okay. Then with that, I call the question. All those in favor of the motion, please signify by saying aye and raising your hand.
Aye.
Aye.
All opposed?
No.
Thank you. Motion passes 4-1. Mr. Lewis in the negative.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you, guys. Unless the board has any other questions.
Thank you, Fred.
Thank you.
Bell.
Yep. Bye.
Okay, we're moving on to agenda item number 9, which I will just spell out because you will otherwise laugh at my accent. BOWMA 2020 review and discussion.
You have an
Hey,
accent?
No.
Yes, Jim's in the room.
Hey, Jim, whenever you want to pull up that slide about that area, just like I have a slide for Jim. That's that map. So whenever he wants to pull that up, he'll just let you know.
All right, thank you. All right, first off, I want to thank everybody for allowing us to present again this year. Last year, Boma did very well. We've been with the township for 13 years, which, I think is phenomenal. It's been a great marriage. Last year, we had a pretty decent year. Between both Upper and Lower Makefield Township, we shot and harvested 128 deer. 42 of those deer we donated to the local food shelter through Hunter Sharing the Harvest. With that ended up becoming 5,760 servings at local food banks. So the fact that we're able to do this hunt and the fact that we're able to take these deer and donate them is helping local food shelters. So I think that's a huge thing that you guys and us should both be proud of. A couple of things I want to talk about our group. We haven't had any negative interactions. We do everything as safe as possible. Safety is number one. We are self-insured with $1 million of liability insurance. We purchase all of our own licenses and charge the township nothing for our services. We turn in a biweekly harvest report. All hunters have to pass a qualification yearly with the archery tackle. When they're a new hunter, we make them come in and they have to climb a tree with using their safety harnesses and everything that proves to us that they're going to be safe candidates to put in your woods. So that is also a very important thing. We check out all of our equipment that we use throughout the season. If anything is deemed faulty, we get rid of it right away and replace it with new stuff to keep it safe. We offer any homeowners assistance where we can. If they call and ask us, we try to provide whatever service we can to help them with their situation. And all of our services and what we provide is on our website, which is bigoakwhitetail.org. So we do a lot. BOMA helps the township by lowering deer numbers. Obviously, it helps the vegetation throughout the township property. More importantly, it helps to lower deer-related accidents out there in the streets, which definitely helps everybody, keeps the township safe. And again, it's something that all the people that we do in this group, all the hunters, this is our passion, and we have the ability to help the township to keep the numbers low and safe. So with that, I'd like to open it up to any questions. If you have any particular questions on that, and then if there's no questions, I would like to ask if it's possible that we continue the hunt for the upcoming season. And I have a property that I'd like to present to see if there's a possibility that we can add that into our hunt plan to move forward this year. Can I say it? Go ahead, Dan.
I was going to say, go ahead, John, but what the heck?
Is John raising his hand?
Yeah.
Whoever you want to pick, I don't mind.
Yeah, I saw John first. Sorry.
That's fine with me.
So, and Jim, I'm probably the biggest BOMA supporter in Lower Makefield, if not in Bucks County. I've referred you guys to other municipalities because I am a big fan of what you're doing in terms of dealing with our deer population. It is a significant challenge for the community. In my neighborhood, within my cul-de-sac, almost each one of my neighbors has had to deal with Lyme disease. So it's one of those things where I'm a big supporter. The areas that I'm thinking about are, how can we get you access to more land in a safe manner? And I'm certainly open and want to do anything possible to make sure that we can get you that. And also, too, we've noticed there were like some lulls when we were getting counts. Was there different periods during this season that we weren't getting as many deers, and if so, why?
Well, a lot of the issues that we had looking back at our properties, we take a place like 5 Mile Woods, which we typically have great harvest in. We did get to hunt there, but after the Christmas holiday. And during the first part of the season, I could tell you that I seen 8 deer that were killed on Route 1 there, right outside of the 5 Mile Woods. What's happening is by the end of the season, the deer are funneling on that property to the Fairless Hills property, and then they come back into the 5 at night. You can't hunt them if you can't get them in front of you. So they're pretty much a nocturnal animal at that point, and we really didn't have great chances. We actually pulled we harvested 1 deer out of 5 Mile Woods. The mass crop this year was very low. So the properties that we did very good on, we typically get 1 or 2 out of Patterson Farm. We took 5 out of there this year. And that was because of the food that they had planted in the fields. That gave us greater opportunity. So that, the mast is really what hurt us this year.
Yes, Dan.
Hey, Jim, I might challenge John on the BOMA thing here. I'm curious. Yeah, I'm a bow guy. I have a recurve bow. So you're probably better than I am with a bow. But what sort of training, other than your standard hunter safety card you have to get from the Game Commission? I know some states like Maine, my native state, has a bow hunter safety training class you have to take in addition to hunter safety if you're going to be a bow hunter. Just so people watching at home, some people are uncomfortable around here. So can you just explain the type of safety training that you have and how you test, other than climbing a tree? Obviously that's for their own safety sometimes, but
yeah.
Can you just speak to that a little bit so people understand what your folks are doing in the field?
Certainly, I think that's a great question. First off, everybody does have to have a hunter safety course, which basically teaches you all general hunting safety. It's not bow safety. But the second thing we require is we have them take the Pennsylvania bow hunting education course, which actually it's online now, and then you actually attend a class, which it's about an 8-hour class. We make everybody attend that. And it goes through every aspect from hunting to, repairing yourself if you're injured, how to get yourself out of the woods. It tells you how to be safe and, set up plans. Like if you leave your house, what are you telling your family? Hey, if I'm not back by such and such time, where are you going to find me? We make sure that we communicate well in our group. And, so that's a big thing. So we all hunt in pairs. Everybody that, my partner, he knows where I'm going to be at. So if I get hung up at night, I can call him, or if my wife calls him up, we can be found. So we do focus a lot on safety. The Bow Hunter Ed course is a great course. We make sure that I'm a member of Falls Township Rifle and Pistol. I run their archery down there. So we invite everybody down to our 3D shoots where we're shooting a 3D animal. And they have to actually walk the course and practice. Everybody has to test on a 3D target, and they have to pass a proficiency test to make sure that they can shoot. They're ethical. We have a questionnaire that we hit them up with. There's really a lot involved, and we try to run a tight ship to make sure that we send safe hunters into the woods.
Right. And I guess the other question for it, I don't think we have it in Bucks County, but when I took my hunter education course last year, there's a lot of talk about chronic wasting disease. That seems to be more of a central Western PA issue. Are we seeing any of that from anecdotally or from numbers?
And our group hasn't.
For those not familiar, it's sort of like mad cow for deer. I'm oversimplifying, but it's something we see in Western PA sometimes. And then I guess finally, if folks are interested in joining BOMA, how would they be able to take part?
We have a website that they can go on. The application is on there. It gives them all the information, like I just said, about they have to sign up. They have to present their hunter safety card. They have to present their bow hunter ed card. They have they have to present all that stuff. And then once they hit it, there's an application. We give them points for every aspect of what they do. So if they harvested 5 deer, that's worth X amount of points. And they have to actually hit a criteria before we actually interview them. So again, there's a lot that goes on to bring somebody in there to bring them into our program. And
I get one last question, because you mentioned how you test them with the 3D targets. Do they have to be Falls Township rod and gun? Is that what it's called?
Rifle and pistol.
Rifle and pistol. I'm sorry. Is that a private group that they have to become a member of, or would they just call you to see if they could get a test?
Well, fortunately, 90% of the guys are members right now, and we try to bring them in there because all of our proficiency testing and stuff is done through the club. And if there's a member, then it's a lot easier on everybody to have members come in and they come to the shoots and do everything. So, you know, it's a nice feature for me because I'm down there all the time, so we can see them.
Good to know. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Yes, Kurt.
Since Supervisor Lewis was talking about areas and stuff, I want to point a couple things out as well. You know, we have, to the chair, who I know who's pressed me to keep looking for spots. You know, we have looked at open space that we've purchased because we have a lot of people calling, asking why they aren't hunting on some of these spots or why we aren't making it available. There are certain restrictions on properties that we have, even if it's wide open space at the time we acquired it, that had a no hunting provision as part of the acquisition. You know, we have reached out to Bucks County. There's a property we've identified that the county owns down by the Canal and River Road, known as the Falls of the Delaware, that Jim himself has seen, that we believe would be a good location. We approached the county a little over a year ago, and it was a quick turnaround in their committees that said that they couldn't allow it. We've reached back out to the county asking that again. We added Snipes property a year or two ago that I think, you know, we had a limited availability. I know there was concerns about the proximity of the school, that they were trying to get someone on there on Saturdays. I don't believe they harvested any deer out of that property last year, but we've tried real hard to find spots and to reach out, for example, to the county to try to give them more opportunities to take care of what we, I think, all understand is the overpopulation. So we'll keep doing that. And I think, Jim, you have another spot that you mentioned that we could pull a map up if the board, whenever they're done with their questions, that you can discuss with them.
Also, as far as the Snipes property, on my sheets that I built, I had it listed as Snipes private, and every time I would show that we had deer harvested there. We actually got 4 deer off of Snipes this year. The problem that I had was on my sheet, it said Snipes private instead of Snipes main, and it never showed up. It always came up as a 0 on Snipes main. So I will fix that for next year. I apologize.
Thank you. So is there something to share, map?
Would you bring that map up, please? All right, we have a property which is, you know, it goes off of Lindenhurst Road. It's the water tower area, and there's a wood line in the back. What I did is I drew out a couple of areas. I should say I did it. One of Mike Ward, one of our hunters, did it for us. He's a board member. It shows the 2 parking access, which are easements. And we've actually talked to a homeowner there, which actually approached us about this property, and we found out that it was township property. She's offered to allow us to access off of through Fountain Road as well. It's a pretty decent property. You can see it's pretty close to some of the houses back off of Fountain Road, but I think it's a property, well, looking around it, that we can hunt safely.
Go ahead, Dan.
Questions?
Jim, would you have any standards regarding the proximity to the property that you would have yourself or any hunters go back in there a certain distance away from those homes as part of that versus, I know there's
absolutely. We would follow the Pennsylvania game law, which is at least 50 yards away from the home. The only time that you can hunt closer is if you have permission from the homeowner that allows you to do so. And to do that, like off the properties on Fountain Road, you would have to get a lot of different properties to hunt closer. But I don't see any reason why we couldn't hunt that property and make that requirement for the Game Commission.
And correct me if I'm wrong. I think Supervisor Lewis would know this. I think when we harvest in areas, we do some sort of notice to the area to get input from the residents. I believe that we've done that in those areas prior to going in there, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, I think so. At least with farmland preservation, there is the people understand that in farmland preservation that the rights of the leaseholder includes hunting, so they know that could occur at any time on those properties.
Yeah, Kurt, I've seen property posted when the folks are out, when the Boma folks are out there hunting, or just prior. There's some land not too far from my house, but I'm not sure that we've actually done homeowner resident notifications separately from posting. Although in this case, that might be a pretty good idea. I don't know if anyone else has better information than that.
So this is township land that's never been Bowman hunted before. Oma.
Actually, we have hunted this property before.
Recently, or?
I would say, 3 years ago was the last time we were in there.
And what process did we go through at that point, if any? Nothing at that point?
At that point, we actually had permission from the homeowner to go back in off of her property. So, and then we researched it to find out that this was actually township property, and that's why I wanted to present it, and that's why we stopped hunting it.
Go ahead, Dan.
Yeah, I'm just curious. I don't quite have the scale in my head here. We were talking about the 50-yard offset requirement. A good chunk of this area, eyeballing it, it looks like it would be narrower than that, right where it necks down in the middle. Do you think maybe my eyes are deceiving me and I'm just off on that? But if we were to do a 50-yard measuring stick across this, would we only be able to hunt, let's say the top left corner where it's wider? I'm not even sure we'd be able to get to that open field. I'm just curious about where that 50 yards is.
Well, on the narrow strip, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you. But
no, go ahead.
On the narrow strip of that property, I would say that we would post up towards the field side of that property, which would give us the provision to get to 50 yards. And then obviously in the upper part is where we probably concentrate most of our hunting.
Okay. I guess I was just trying to figure out if you're back in that open field, I would like to see, I'm just trying to understand the measurements. That's all.
I wish, the guy that made this is actually really good at this program. And if I would have asked for that and been smart enough, I would have had that for you for this presentation.
I got you. And I guess my main question is really, matters like this, I always go back to Chief. He knows best, right? I'm just on Lindenhurst here. Chief, do you have any concerns with this plan, the way it's laid out and the way it was? I guess they did 3 years ago, so you probably got some feedback on that.
And I do recall back 3 years ago, and I don't recall any problems with this particular area or from any of the neighbors at that time. So I have no reservations about it. And let me just add that Jim and Boma work well with the police. We issue their ID cards. They inform us of who's out there all the time and how many people are there and where they're at ahead of time. So we know, and we haven't had any complaints whatsoever.
Thanks, Chief.
So Dan, let me also point out, because I want to make sure we're in the areas that we hunt that are proximate to where there's residential properties, we do provide a notification that there would be a hunt. So we would, if the board wanted to do this again, we would send that notice out. You very well could get residents calling in, expressing concerns, questions. We would say in the end that Jim would be available to answer those questions. We want the board to be read in, but those notifications would go out. We would draw that out, and those letters would go out. I don't know if Jim sends those, the township sends those. I don't recall, but that would happen.
I think that makes good sense to do that. And the hunting doesn't start until the fall, correct?
September, 18th, I think it is this year.
So we have plenty of time to get that process underway if the board is looking, and I think based on what John and Dan have said so far, certainly what I have said in the past, that to extend where we can safely hunt. So why don't we consider a motion? And I don't know if we want a two-part motion. Do we want to talk about just renewing our relationship, our partnership with BOMA, or do we want to specifically talk about this property in that?
I would say approve the BOMA bow hunting program as presented, and that would include then the additional description that we had tonight.
Yes, John.
I'll make that motion.
John raised his hand first. You can second it, James.
I'll second John's motion.
I move that we approve the BOMA program for 2022 as presented, including the additional properties.
And second with James. Any discussion? So Kurt, I have a question. If in fact we hear back from the county, will we bring this back then for a further discussion to see if, if BOMA would be able to help us over there as well?
Absolutely.
All right, is there any public comment?
Yes, Holly is on the line.
Excellent. Can you bring Holly in, please?
Holly
Yeah.
is in.
Can you hear me?
Yes, can you state your full name and address, please?
Sure. It's Holly Bussey, 20 Knoll Drive, Yardley, Pennsylvania. Lower Makefield. Just a few quick comments because I want to be respectful of everyone's time, but I want to thank BOMA. The hunters that come that were on the property near my house, which is between Sandy Run and Pine Brook Farms, this year were particularly gracious in that they would stop and talk to the neighbors as we were walking by. Lots of people were walking, and they really were educational and told us what they were doing and told us how they hadn't had any luck because the deer had got smart and would go into Yardley Borough, somehow knowing they couldn't pursue it. I had a question as to whether any cooperative hunting is organized between Lower Makefield and Yardley Borough, because behind Sandy Run crosses into Yardley Borough. And we have a herd here that the hunters were unable to successfully hunt because they kind of like crossed the line, and the hunters are saying how, they kind of know. That was my first comment, and just we were very impressed. The other thing is, it would be helpful, I think, and educational also to promote what happens to the meat harvested from these huts. I mean, it's a great service. And people who don't like hunters or have ethical problems, this helps to bring the community together to realize that the hunt isn't just hunting for the sake of hunting, that you're helping people who have food scarcities. And I think that's a really good thing to help promote, not just mention it to the Board of Supervisors. So I just want to lift that up and thank the bow hunters and how courteous they were, at least the gentlemen that were hunting in our neighborhood. And the third question I had is there a place we could go to the township to see all the different hunting areas that are covered yearly?
Kurt, you want to take that, or?
I think again, I don't think we have a centralized map. That's actually a good question. Obviously Jim knows the areas that he's in. We could sit and talk about putting something together that's aggregated into a township map of that. So I don't think we have a standardized map for that. Correct me if I'm wrong, Jim, but
No, we don't.
That's actually a good idea.
It may be on the website at one point. I think we had it posted on our website. So I don't know if you maintain that or not. So maybe we can continue to do that.
I'll have to look. That's a good. If we don't, we should get it back up there. It probably would need updated. So
I can confirm that it is on the website.
Thank you, Monica.
Yes, you're welcome.
And Jim, have you ever had any contact with the borough?
No, we have not. But that's something we'll definitely have to look at and see what we can do.
Could they blow horns and scare them this way?
We could.
No, well, and the reason why I bring this up is because the herds that live here tend to go. It's in a quarry area between Sandy Run and Pine Brook, and then what they do is they walk up, they cross over to Prospect Farm, and there's a stretch of woods back there by the Fiore property, and that's where some of it is open land, some of it belong, I don't know if it's Fiore anymore, but it was Fiore. So their pattern is there. They go up to where it's open here, they walk up to our properties and go across the street into Prospect Farm. Where there is open opportunity to hunt, I don't know if that's on the map, and that's what reason I was asking about the map. So I'll try to locate it on the site, see if that's a place that they currently are hunting, and if not, I'll find out who to talk to. It's just a curiosity. But again, I just wanted to thank the gentleman and for being so courteous and gracious, because they're there to do a job, and they come out and they when you want to know, and it was very educational, and it was also good to hear about how the harvest was handled to help other people in need. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Holly.
Thank you.
Yes, Dan. Go ahead, Dan.
Yeah, I think the property she's talking about for future reference is actually right behind my house. Prospect Farm Drive is kind of, we back up to that, and I believe there's a township. There's a basin, and then I believe it's township owned, just woods that's near the basin. And there are historically have been a fair number of deer that run through there, and eventually make their way to 95 across everyone's yard. So I think it's probably where they're talking about. I've never seen any signs posted there for hunting, but I'm guessing that's what she's talking about, because there are a fair number of deer there. So it might be something to consider in the future.
We would consider it, but like I said, I need to check it out on a map and go from there. I don't want to talk out of turn.
No, I appreciate that.
I think Dan said you can come to his backyard. I think that's what I heard. So,
Yes, you can use my roof as a tree stand if you'd like.
Okay.
all right. Any other public comment?
There's no further public comment.
And with that, I'll call the question. All those in favor of the motion, please signify by saying aye, raising your hand.
Aye.
Aye.
Motion carries 5-0. Thank you very much, Jim.
Thank you, everybody. We appreciate you guys. Take care.
Bye-bye. Agenda item number 10, engineers report.
Yes, hello, supervisors. You have in your packet my report. I have no specific agenda items. I do have a couple of updates within the report. One, if you'll remember, there were some light posts that needed to be repaired at the pool complex. We put that out for an RFP or RFQ, and the work is scheduled to be completed tomorrow. They're going to be on site. I've coordinated with Monica for access, and so that's going to be getting done in advance of the pool opening. So that's good news. The next update is the Township Road Program. We received the schedule from the contractor. They are scheduled to start milling and overlay the roadways on June 7th, the week of June 7th. So I believe that I passed that along to the township. I believe we're getting that up on the township website. Last update I have is, if you'll remember, at the last meeting, there was a public comment concerning the work on Mr. Chenard's property from the Caddis development. They have started that work. They were out there yesterday to run the electrical work to the grinder pump from Mr. Chenard's property. I spoke with him today. He was pleased with that work, and from what I understand, the plumbing work is imminent, and then the restoration of his yard will be immediately after that. So that's all the updates that I have at this time.
Yes, Dan.
Andy, quick question. Kurt, I think we traded an email on this. Just a quick one. On the Woodside Road bike path, Mr. Zuzak, Robert Zuzak, who owns, I think, a 6 or so acre property on Woodside, and I'm pretty sure you've spoken to him in months past. He has requested to, and I know this will go through Kurt, but he has requested to make sure he's kept in the loop as we move forward with any design elements of the Woodside Road bike path. At one point, one of the earlier designs crossed his property, so that's since changed and his property is not impacted to date. But if that does change, he obviously would like to know about it. I know we'll communicate that with him.
Yeah, that's understood.
And for the public as well, one of the things that we'll be asking Andy to do is, as that design is created, that'll be part of at least one, but probably more than one public presentation as far as how that is, because obviously that will go out to bid, and you know, we've sort of have that as part of our process now that the board gets to see those, ask for changes, what have you, within reason. That would be a public process as well, but we'll make sure that we do that with him.
And Just the one other question, Andy, I think last meeting it was mentioned that, and I think we got a copy of it just recently. Your property condition assessment report, and if I misnamed that report, I apologize, but that's basically what it is for the buildings at Patterson Farm.
And the golf course.
And the golf, excellent. And obviously this is good timing as we proceed with our ad hoc committee. Is that something does that need to be an agenda item at some point, or is that something that we'll need to discuss? Or Kurt, have you and staff had time to review it and
Yes,
comfortable
we've
the
met with
report?
Andy, probably much to Andy's chagrin, I think 3 times about that. We had the other items, the other report that we've already given you that Jim Majewski has updated for inflationary, changes, that we would sort of incorporate that with this report. That, whether the board wants to talk about that, that's for the board to decide, but at least our review with the properties that we were going to undertake as part of the committee and part of the board is complete. If there's an additional property in there, we tried to pick the most prominent properties that we felt would be looked at. If we needed to add something else out there, then we would. The only thing I will point out, because this did come up, several board members had asked me about it, is Warren Farringer House, where we lease, that we actually do not own that. That is a property as part of that shopping center development we were given a 99-year lease back in the day on that for us to lease out. So we actually don't own that property. So if there's anything else in there that we think that needs to be included. Obviously I didn't include the township building in there. I included sort of the assets that we think of when we think of the township owned property. So the board, the committee wants to see something else. We have, Andy on the hook here for and ready to do this stuff along with Jim. So, but that should be that encompasses everything that we intended to provide you all in both those reports.
Kurt, I apologize if I missed it, but if you or Jim has a chance, if you could, if I could get a copy of the updated Jim report, as I'll call it, and I saw Andy's report recently.
Absolutely, and Jim has already created a Google Docs for a Google Drive to start putting in information for the committee to access, and for the board, obviously, and as they produce documents, when they get up and running, that'll be shared and can be viewed, but I'll make sure Jim sends that to you tomorrow.
Thank you, and thanks to Jim.
And Andy.
Yeah, sure.
Any other comments by any supervisors? Monica, is there any public comment?
There is no public comment.
Then we will move along to agenda item number 11. Thank you, Andy.
I just bring up something real quick. So Andy brought up the road program. Sandy Run, we're looking at a start date of about the 3rd week in June, 2nd to 3rd week. They are waiting until school is out. We believe that the project that still fits the timeline of being completed before school starts. And just as a reminder, so the same contractor, Harris Paving, that is doing the road program, was the low bidder on the Sandy Run project. So they will already be staged in the area, which should be a lot more efficient as far as getting that underway and completed quickly. That's all I have for that at the moment. If there's any questions, I'll do my best.
Any questions from supervisors? Monica, any public comment?
There is no public comment.
And then we will move along, stay with Kurt and let him put on his manager's report.
Thank you. I will point out, since we're talking about paving, Dan, I say this not for you, but I know it's a question you have, is that we have continued to coordinate with the appropriate people regarding the 400 feet or whatever on Maple Vale that is part of their 2021 paving that I think we anticipate being done in July. But I will make sure that our Public Works Director continues to coordinate if there's any change on that date, although we're not anticipating it. Monica, the first item that we have here regarding Lower Makefield football, there you are. Can you take it away?
Okay, so as you remember, in January of 2020, before the world shut down, I came to you with a request from LMFA approved by the park board to utilize the field at Memorial Park for the youngest groups of football players for LMFA to practice throughout the year of 2020. I came to the park board again with the same question, would they be willing to do that again? And they agreed, but they do want to continue to do it on a year-by-year basis as not a permanent thing. So we're looking to ask for the field use for 1 year again. Only the football fields, only the youngest 2 divisions for 1 year, no practice surrounding 9/11 events. And really that's what my ask is today, is that if the Board of Supervisors would approve LMFA to have the same as they did in 2020.
Do I have a motion?
I'll make a motion.
Thank you, James. Second.
I'll second.
Thank you, Fred. Any discussion?
I just had a quick question for Monica.
Sure, go ahead.
Any issues with it last year?
No, I mean, very minor, if anything, and they were fixed right away. So
Excellent.
I mean, it was really a great experience, I have to say. This last year, LMFA really worked with us. If I brought anything to their attention, they corrected it right away. No big deal.
Cool. Thank you.
Fred, did I see your hand?
Same question.
Dan?
Yeah, you mentioned the youngest age groups. Is that just flag, or is that
It's just flag.
okay? How many kids do they get? Rough, any idea?
Oh, I don't know how many kids they had practicing on the field. I know James might be able to answer that better than I would.
I think it was maybe, I don't know, 10 teams with 10 kids. So, I mean, maybe 100. I don't know.
Do they split the field and take a half a field, or do they go?
Yeah, I think that's what they were doing.
Yeah. Okay. I'm just curious about wear and tear, and if there's any, tackles obviously a lot more tear up on the field than little kids playing flag. So I was just curious.
Anything else, anyone? Yes, John.
Parks and Rec Board review this and vote on it then? They approved it?
The Park and Rec Board asked, so at that time, LMFA hadn't come to me with the request, but I knew that they wanted it. So they gave me, as long as LMFA wanted it, they approved and recommended to the Board of Supervisors.
Any other discussion? Yes.
And just Monica, from your perspective, it sounds like it was very successful last year. Any issues with making sure we have adequate facilities for them? 100 relatively little kids need to go to the bathroom kind of thing. Just making sure we have, the basics for them. Are we okay with that?
There didn't seem to be any problems with that. There was a little bit of an issue with parking at one point, but we addressed that and fixed it right away. But the facility seemed to be fine. And I want to make sure, I don't know if I mentioned it, that is weekdays only, not weekends. So they're only out there weekdays for practice, no games.
Okay. And no neighbor issue. It's only during it's no lights there, so it's not like it's going to be a nighttime thing. So no late night noise and all that stuff. So neighbors, I'm assuming neighbors haven't had any issues either, right?
Yeah, we didn't have any complaints from neighbors.
Okay. I'm figure we need to ask the questions, but I heard good things last year, so I'm in favor this year.
Anything else? Any public comment?
There's no public comment.
With that, take a vote. All those in favor of the motion, please signify by saying aye, raising their hand.
Aye.
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 Motion passes 5-0.
Thank you.
Thank you. It's your turn again, Kurt.
Yep, next item. So as the board is aware, we've been using through our road machinery fund short-term financing to help Public Works replace old equipment. The board had approved the purchase of 2 pieces of equipment, a wheel loader and a backhoe, that totaled $201,506. We put out, I put out an RFP to banks that offer a lease to purchase program. We got 2 back that I put in the FTP site. The low bidder on this one, it's the first time they've been the low bidder, is Santander Bank. That came back at 1.85%. We did budget for this year again out of the road machinery fund. It would start with 3 quarterly payments this year, 12 total through the loan. I would recommend approval. So to just put it in perspective, the 3-year cost for that would be $201,506 in principal, and a total interest cost over 3 years of about $5,150. Again, we've set up that road machinery fund to take on these pieces of equipment where we'll have loans rotating off, new ones coming on, and starting to get these bigger, more expensive pieces of equipment in a means by which we can afford to bring them on 1 and 2 pieces, multiple pieces a year. So I'd ask for the board approval for that financing, please.
Do I hear a motion?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
Thank you, motion maker Fred and seconder James. Any discussion? Yes, Dan?
John, you've never worked for Santander or have?
No, interestingly, no, I have not worked for Santander Bank. A bank I did previously work for actually bid on some of the branches that Santander actually bought in New England. But I was not involved in that transaction, and it was over 15 years ago. So no direct relationships with Santander Bank.
I know you touch a lot of those banks, so I want to make sure.
Yeah.
And Kurt, have we much history with Santander at all?
No, obviously they're local. So they have been getting, they've been getting these sheets with every piece of equipment that we've put out. And TD Bank has been the low bidder on every one. And I think, so if you look at the other bid that we got from this was TD Bank. TD Bank bid 2.39%. The previous one we put out, TD Bank was the lowest at 2.40. So I think Santander realized they weren't getting these. They could see what these quotes were, and they came in strong on this one, but this will be their first one. The protocol, I've already spoken with them, is similar to TD, what they need for documentation. They'll escrow the money, pay it when it comes in. No filing costs or anything, so it's fairly straightforward.
Yeah, there's no fine print that concerns you, I guess. Okay.
Yes, John.
Yeah, just a heads up on that. There's no prepayment penalty when I went through the documents. So from in terms of a risk perspective, we can repay that lease at any time, correct, Kurt? Is my read from what you sent on. So we're okay with that, right?
Correct.
Yeah.
Any other discussion from the supervisors? Monica, is there any public comment?
There is no public comment.
Then with that, I'll call the question. All those in favor of the motion, please signify by saying aye and raising your hand.
Aye.
Motion passes 5-0. Agenda item number 13, David.
Yes, ma'am. There was an executive session which started at 6:30. 4 of the supervisors were in attendance tonight, all but Mr. Lewis, who I think had an emergency issue. Items related to litigation, information, and real estate were discussed at the executive session, which concluded at approximately 7:30 when this meeting started, or shortly thereafter. Next item is item number 14, zoning hearing board. There are 2 matters for consideration. First, Paul Lupinacci and Elizabeth Luciano at the 1229 Ash Lane of Lower Makefield, tax parcel number 20-064-020, are requesting a variance from the Township Zoning Ordinance 200-69-14.c in order to install a 6-foot white vinyl privacy fence and a drainage easement and a sanitary sewer easement. We kind of take positions depending on a lot of circumstances, but in this case, we're recommending participation, not because we're recommending opposition, but essentially to make sure that the township's access is going to be preserved, or that of anybody else who would be maintaining either the drainage easement or the sanitary sewer easement. It may be known to some people that we're going to probably have some new zoning hearing board members, so this will be part of, for lack of a better term, an educational process. So we recommend a participation. Of course, it's the board's decision ultimately what to do, decide. But if they want to participate, a motion and vote will be required for that purpose.
I'd like to make a motion to have the township participate in the zoning hearing board matter concerning tax parcel number 20-064-020, property owned by Paul Lupinacci and Elizabeth Luciano at 1229 Ash Lane, Yardley, PA 19067.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
Thank you, James. Any discussion? Any public comment?
There is no public comment.
All those in favor of the motion, please signify by saying aye, raising your hand.
Aye.
Aye.
Motion passes 5-0.
Thank you. Next, James Scott at 865 Dutchess Drive, tax parcel number 20-039-226, is requesting a variance from the Township zoning ordinance 200-23.b in order to replace the existing rear yard concrete slab patio and walkway with hardscape pavers, which would increase the impervious surface from existing 22.84% to 26.49%, or 18% is the allowable amount. I recall that in the application, there was some stormwater mitigation also promoted. As with most of these circumstances, the zoning hearing board normally is equipped to address these issues adequately without our participation. Obviously, it's the board's determination what they want to do, but we would recommend deferral to the zoning hearing board, which would not require a vote. So,
Dave, if I can ask a question, if you don't mind.
Sure.
Chair Blundy. Do they need to get a variance to go above 18 to their existing 22.84%?
That I don't know. What happens sometimes, you may see, and I'm not sure how they acquired, we got the 22.84. It's possible that certain things were done prior to the 18% being applicable. I don't know the actual chronology here. I also know that in some circumstances, folks who are already in excess of the permissible amount actually want to reduce it, but still have it higher than the amount that's allowed, still have to request a variance. Jim, you have something to add to that?
Yes, Dave. Yes, Dave, you are correct. Many of the properties, there was no limit on impervious surface at the time. There was only a limit on building coverage. Therefore, there are a number of properties in the township that are already over by virtue of having just built their house way back when. Although we do check during the meeting just to make sure, has any work been done without permits, so that everyone's aware of that.
Correct.
Thank you, Jim.
You're welcome.
Jim and I did not rehearse that, by the way, before we did.
Is there any other discussion? So
The board then is going to, I'm sorry, if the board's going to defer, then that's all I have tonight.
Okay, great. Then we're moving along to agenda item number 15, zoning inspections and planning.
The Pennsbury School District has requested final release of the financial security held by the township for the middle school improvement project. The project included the Penwood Middle School, as well as some improvements to Charles Bain and the William Penn School. All these site improvements that are currently anticipated to be done are complete. The school district doesn't plan to move forward with the full Charles Bain improvements right at this time. And they're requesting that all the security be released with the understanding that they would need to repost it in the event they choose to progress this project at a future date. Therefore, we recommend the release of $2,066,920.95 held by the township. The amount of financial security remaining after this will be zero.
Is there a motion? Fred made a motion. John, you want to second it?
Sure.
Okay. Is there any discussion? Go ahead, Dan.
I'll ask my normal question to either Jim or Andy. Are there any punch list items outstanding for any of this, or are they just done and we're ready to release it and they're not going to move forward with anything else until a later date?
They're done. They were done actually a year ago, but at that time they wanted to maintain their bond. I had requested that maybe they want to release that. It might be a good time, but at that time they wanted to keep it. I guess since that time they've changed their mind.
Okay. And do we have a procedure in place? I don't, Dave, this might be for you. I don't know. If they do want to progress the next project, to have them to repost, is there a?
Don't have to start it all over again in that circumstance.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
So frankly, at this point, it will be a new project. I mean, I think that's the way I would look at it.
That was going to be my next question. So, okay.
And I believe they were contemplating changes to the plans too. So it would be a new project.
Anyone else? Is there any public comment?
There is no public comment.
That I'll call the question. All those in favor of the motion, please signify by saying aye, raising your hand.
Aye.
Aye.
Yes, John. Motion carries 5-0. Next.
The Dogwood Skate Shop has requested a certificate of appropriateness in order to replace their roof. The Historical Architectural Review Board met on May 11th and unanimously voted to approve the application as presented as being appropriate and historically accurate. Basically, the roof is going to look just like it does now, only it'll be watertight and the same type of shingles as you see on the screen.
I'd like to make a motion to approve the certificate of appropriateness for 1700 Yardley Langhorne Road, Dogwood Skate Shop for their roof replacement.
Is there a second? Thank you, James. Any discussion?
Is the skate shop open now? Sorry.
No, but I believe they're opening soon.
Yes, Dan.
And yeah, I was just going to reiterate at the HARB meeting, I'm the liaison. They had no issues with this, and we're hoping they could go ahead as soon as possible to avoid any additional damage. I think there was a leak involved, so that he's trying to fix sooner rather than later. So they fully support this motion.
Any public comment?
There is no public comment.
With that, I'll call the question. All those in favor, please signify by raising your hand and saying aye.
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 Motion carries 5-0. Thank you. Moving on to agenda item 16, public comment. Monica, is there any public comment?
Yes, we have Lee on the line.
Excellent. Can you let Lee in?
Yeah, he's coming in now. Lee, can you please press *6 to unmute?
Chair Blundy, members of the board, town officials, Lee Pedowitz, 247 Truman Way, Yardley. I just want to pick up where I left off at the meeting 2 weeks ago when I was discussing with Mr. Ferguson why Caddis was not cited for violating the ordinances about start and end times. I have written many emails. I'm bringing it up again because I'm not satisfied with the answers I'm getting. I don't mind being told I'm wrong, but we have ordinances in the town, and like Mr. Ferguson brought up, their violations were sporadic. I could go with, fool me once, shame on you. Fool me twice, shame on me. Fool me 3 times, then the stuff is going to hit the fan. And I don't know if their violations were sporadic, but they were over months and months and months. And I've said before, we have proof of that. And I would like to hear from a member of the board why Caddis cannot be cited for obviously violating town ordinances. And, I just want to bring up, I don't drive around the town trying to police things. But if I see something wrong, I'd really like the town to take action. And I'm not quite sure that I have confidence that the town will take action. So I'd like to hear from a member of the board.
Well, I guess I'll be the member of the board. Lee, I think it's fair to say we all appreciate what you've done to bring to the attention issues that you and your fellow neighbors have had with Caddis. And I think that our staff has tried repeatedly, whether it be the manager, through the police department, through Andy or other township staff, why it's not a perfect system. But overall, I think that perhaps there might have been lessons learned, but overall, how the township responded is how the township responded. And I appreciate that you feel maybe things could have been done differently at certain times. And yet here we are, right? We do sometimes have, we have residents who will say to us, and I know this is not per se with you, Lee, you sent an email or I called you or whatever. And no one wants to be in, I don't want to be, so I don't want to speak for my other supervisors. I don't want to be in the position where publicly I'm saying, no, you didn't, yes, you did, no, you didn't, yes, you did. We try to manage the resources of the township, the ordinances, the needs of the residents. We try to do the best we can, and that's the spirit which this board tries to move forward. And did you want to add
Chair,
something? Lee, I think Dan wants
No,
to add something, so I don't want to not allow him to have that opportunity, if that's okay with you, Lee.
oh, sure.
Go ahead, Dan.
Sure. You mentioned, Chair Blundy mentioned a good point. This is a development that, took some time and obviously affected in different ways neighbors that are, look right back onto it. And, we have a unique situation here where we have residential properties backing up to commercial property, essentially, which presents some challenges, obviously, when you mix those two land uses right next to each other. But I think we have an opportunity here, and I'm saying this from a 30,000-foot level, not in the weeds of this project per se, but to use this as an opportunity to identify those lessons learned, how we might be able to interact more with the developers, the contractors on site, to maybe earlier communication in terms of what our policies and procedures are, to make sure that they are in compliance with our code, that they don't start work early, that they don't turn on the lights or loud music or whatever it may be, because we'll have more projects like this in the future, and whenever we develop, there's issues like this that we have to deal with. So I think at some point we have a lot of emails from folks, a lot of communications from folks. It's a good opportunity to take a step back, look at what we did well, where the concerns may be that we've gotten from the residents, and not look to see if they're justified or not, but see sometimes those concerns are mitigated by just better communication of some type, to make sure everyone has the right information, so that it's clear. And sometimes the worst part about projects like this, I say this from a professional perspective, is not knowing what, having a concern and not knowing what the next step may be and how we address that. So, as a board, we can, we funnel information, but I think from a policy perspective, we can take a step back and just see what we might be able to do better or more efficiently to communicate some of these issues and really nip it in the bud ahead of time with contractors, especially for large projects where we might be able to address that. That's all. But thank you, Lee, for your continued vigilance on these issues, because we may be long lost cousins here with some of this stuff, the way we follow this information. But I definitely appreciate you and your neighbors for bringing all this stuff to our attention so we can track it down.
Go ahead, Andy. I saw your hand.
If other board members have something to say, I'd like them to have the opportunity to discuss it before.
Go ahead, John.
Yeah, just very quickly, I think this points to an issue where we need to do a better job of tracking citizen concerns and logging them in a way that we can track, if they're associated with a specific project, what the level of effort from township staff is related to addressing those concerns. We have particular developers that have taken extraordinary amounts of time from township staff and Andy, who's shown amazing vigilance. And for us to have a good understanding of how many citizen concerns we get, where they emanate from, if they're related to specific developers, so that the next time that developer says, well, can you help me out here? I just need a little change. I think we say, well, no, please let us explain all the total cost that you've incurred on the taxpayers of Lower Makefield. And that's an area where I think we need to improve our response management and tracking. That's all I needed on that.
All right, well, Chair, can I just make a final comment?
Go ahead, Lee.
Yeah, Well, I appreciate everything you've said, and I'm actually feeling at ease, so I don't think I'll have anything to talk about at the next meeting. One thing, just quick, did you go over under item 11 all the projects beside that Sandy Run Road?
So
And then with
that's not how we handled agenda item 11 or wherever it falls every week on project updates. We have them listed there, and then if there are specific questions, we take them. Because that's why there's like a little blurb written next to each thing that kind of tells you what the update is. Was there something you wanted to ask about?
No, because when I've been listening in, usually we go over all of them, so I was just curious. So
No,
listen,
that actually
with
is
that,
something that started with Dan, and it's just been a carryover to kind of keep like a tickler list of things that we have going on in the township. So.
okay, well, listen, okay, that's it. And thank everyone. I hope you all stay safe and well and enjoy the good weather.
Thank you, Lee. Have a good night.
You too.
Monica, next caller.
There's no further public comment.
Okay, thank you. Then we will move on to agenda item number 17, discussion items. So, John, I know you are the liaison to the Trenton Mercer Airport Committee, which I probably just said incorrectly, but if you wanted to tee this up, that would be great.
Sure. Just a little bit of background. The Trenton Mercer Airport Terminal Area Improvements Project has a draft environmental assessment, and this is available for public review, and there's currently a 30-day public review process. What's interesting about this specific draft environmental assessment is that they'd actually be increasing the size of the terminal fourfold. So it's a huge, huge increase in the size of the terminal, which really leads to significantly more flights. And additionally, because these have been done as one-offs, in this case, Mercer County is attempting to bypass the sort of standard review process. And what we're seeking to do in terms of the Trenton Mercer Airport Review Panel is to provide our concerns specifically as it relates to this draft environmental assessment. It's particularly important because we may be facing larger and larger increases of the airport, and there are significant environmental and public health issues associated with it. I think I want to state that the consensus within the Trenton Mercer Airport Review Panel is not that they want to eliminate or any way impede Trenton Mercer Airport's ability to succeed, but rather to make sure that the environmental impacts are properly assessed under the law, that Lower Makefield residents are protected from significant environmental issues, and that the costs associated with that, the environmental costs, are borne equally by New Jersey and Pennsylvania as it relates to that. To that end, the panel, has drafted an initial 3-page response letter that goes through sort of point by point a number of the issues. The final draft of it I've shared with all of the my fellow supervisors, and the panel would like at this time if the board would be willing to approve the sending of a response letter. It doesn't necessarily have to be this response letter, but this is certainly a first draft that can be shared with board members and worked through. The reason why it's of a time-sensitive nature is there is actually a 2-hour public hearing on June 2nd from 7 to 9 p.m. That's the public hearing. And we encourage people that are concerned about the Trenton Mercer Airport to call into that meeting and express their concerns with the terminal project. And so, again, what I'm looking for from the board is consideration of sending a response letter from the township. And I've sent that to everybody. Does anybody have any questions? Sure.
Sure. Yeah, I couldn't get it to open earlier, but I was able to open it now. I've been involved with Senator Sierra's sort of multi-level government committee that has been following this over the last few years, and have authored or co-authored a couple of these letters with that group that came from Congressman Fitzpatrick's office, have come from other folks, where we've touched on some of these issues. I don't have an issue sending a letter that says much the same thing to those previous letters. I think that in looking at this one, I would heavily edit portions of it for technical accuracy and a few other things. But the main point, though, is John mentioned, or Supervisor Lewis mentioned, the June 2nd public meeting. That's tied to a draft environmental assessment that's been issued for the terminal expansion. That's part of a National Environmental Policy Act NEPA process that has a public comment period. I believe the public comment period ends June 16th, so we can submit via email or their website or snail mail our comments. So I think we technically have till June 16th. We should double check that. But the importance of writing a letter is related to the fact that this is the official public comment period that the FAA takes into consideration when reviewing an environmental assessment.
Yeah, no, I think that makes sense, Dan. And I don't, since we do have time, and since you've made it clear that you think the letter needs to be edited, and John, I appreciate you sending it over a little bit earlier while we were in executive session. I guess the question before the board is, do we have a motion that we would send a comment letter? And if so, we can work out the details of the letter offline. So
I would be happy to make that motion.
I think John might have beat me by.
I'd be happy to second it.
All right, then Dan made the motion, John made the second. Right. Is there any discussion from the other supervisors? Yes, Fred.
No, I have no problem sending a letter. I just, any content should basically separate, not segment, but separate the different items about airport expansion, the types of pollution that we're considering, because there's noise issues and other environmental issues that should be looked at. And the letter, I'm totally for saying a letter. The draft that was presented to us seemed to be a little more disjointed than I would like. So I think we can get that organized and sent out and before the 16th. Be great.
Okay, James, anything?
Nope, I agree. I think
if I can weigh in, I just looked at my information here. I got the information from Barbara Lishman on May 3rd about 30-day periods. You may want to double check to make sure that the 30 days ends the 16th, because I just don't want us to be late with the comment. So that's the only.
We can take care of that offline.
Right. I just want to make sure that everybody's aware that that's just so we don't wait too long.
So John, yeah.
Yeah, just to address some of Supervisor Weiss's concerns. Yeah, there were a number of people who provided edits to it, so it reflects a lot of folks and certainly could use perhaps a little tightening. To Supervisor Weiss's concerns specifically about pollution and stuff, one of the interesting elements is the PFAS, which is this contaminant that infects the drinking water. New Jersey's actually suing the federal government related to the PFAS that is at the Naval Warfare Center in Trenton. So it seems a little odd that they're pushing this so quickly, yet they're suing the federal government over the groundwater contamination in that area, and this would lead to additional disturbances. So I think it's something we could definitely work through, and I welcome comments from fellow supervisors, and I think we have time to get a constructive work on it between now and its eventual date, whether that's June 2nd or the 16th.
Yeah. Okay, is there any public comment?
There is Holly on the line.
Okay. Yes, Holly.
Am I unmuted?
Yeah, there you are. State your name.
Okay, sorry.
Address, please.
Sure. Sure, it's Holly Bussey, 20 Dole Drive, Yardley, Pennsylvania. I am actually representing the Bucks Residents for Responsible Airport Management, known as BRAM. I am the president of this grassroots organization. I wanted to just update since our recent meeting that we've been able to secure some information on public comment. We have asked our legislators, including the township supervisor, Mr. Lewis. I understand he has commitment because there is a meeting, a supervisor meeting the same day. However, we have obtained information of ways that we can actually make sure anybody with a political power who may want to make a verbal comment on June 2nd, there is a way that we'll be able to put them up at the top of the list. I just got that information or authorization today. I'm getting how we do it. So I want to put that forth to any of the supervisors should they wish to make a comment. While a letter is critical because that will be attached to the EA and will require a response. At this meeting, it is imperative that we get as much support from our representatives, not just the public, but the representatives as well, because that will make sure that they know everybody's paying attention. This whole issue has, as you are probably aware, has been probably one of the most disjointed ways of getting a project through, complicated, doublespeak, you name it. And we are hoping that even though the hearing starts at 7, that there might be a chance that one of you could step out, make a comment if you're scheduled to do so to help support the information that you'll be supplying via a letter regarding this issue. And as far as I know, the public notice did state June 16th. We are trying to get verification on that, but it is stated on the public notice, which Mr. Trulev, we questioned it too because of when it was released. But the public notice says June 16th, and we haven't been able to get confirmation of that. So we're all going on the hopes that it is June 16th and take it from there. I just wanted to bring the most up-to-date information regarding where we are as far as the public hearing piece of this project. Thank you.
Thank you, Holly. Monica, is there any further public comment?
Richard is in the room. I'm not sure if he would like to make a comment or not.
How do we find out?
Richard, can you please press *6 to unmute?
Richard, can you hear me?
Richard, you can press *6 to unmute and speak.
Can you put him back in the other room and see what we can do to help him?
Yes, you got it.
Thank you.
And there is no one else on the line behind Richard.
Okay. Did you want to say something, Kurt?
Monica, is there anybody else that while we're getting him squared away? Oh, that's it.
Can we move to supervisor reports and then come back if Richard comes in? So I don't have a supervisor report because I was going to talk about the EAC's recycle event, but Dan did a fine job earlier. So Moving on to James.
I have nothing to report at this time.
Thank you, Fred.
I have nothing to report.
Thank you, John.
Well, we kind of covered a lot of what I was going to cover anyway, so I think we're good there.
Thank you, John. Dan?
John, did you just want to add that the draft environmental assessment can be viewed by the public at ttnterminal.com,
Yes.
along with all the appendices that go with it? I just sent an email out to the board with all that information and the public comment appendix is Appendix I, so there's a whole bunch of information to go there. My supervisor report, Harb met, we talked about one item. The second item that Harb covered was another, I'll say rendition or another option, alternative for a layout of the at the point, the Quill House, etc. That what's his name? CT Troilo is presenting. It's a draft plan. He met with Harb to kind of get some ideas. This is the second or third time I think he's met with them, and it's been an active, positive back and forth conversation. I don't think anyone's sold on any specific designs yet, but it's an open conversation right now that they're looking at. So I think that's going to be on a planning commission agenda, which segues into my next one. The first one next month, I believe, tentatively speaking. So we may get to see more on that. I'll keep everyone posted. Otherwise, the Historical Commission also met just recently, covered a bunch of items, and another thank you to Jim Majewski for providing a whole bunch of information on historic buildings and data across the township that the Historical Commission found very useful. That's all I have.
Okay. Monica, any chance Richard's back?
Richard is back.
Great, thank you. Richard, please state your full name and your address.
Yeah, this is Rich Preston. Can you hear me?
Yep.
Great. Okay. Sorry, I don't know why star 6 was not working on my cell phone, but I'm here now. Richard Preston, 1522 Stapler Drive. Just a couple comments to make. John carried the discussion just fine. What I want to just point out was a few of the things that are going on over there that are kind of disturbing and just annoying in how the airport is doing things and making these segmented projects. For example, they received a categorical exclusion for adding parallel taxiways that will really impact the number of planes they can handle at the airport and stack them for taking off. And these projects are underway. And the problem is they got the CADAX approval based on it being a maintenance and repair project, when actually they're paving over a meadow to make the new runway, or not runway, a taxiway. One of the commissioners in Mercer County made a very powerful statement at a public meeting that the parallel taxiways will have a very significant negative impact on their community, and urged the fellow commissioners to vote against it, and she was overruled and the project was approved. And they're going on. And so that's just an example of the segmented projects that they're really using kind of underhanded ways to present these and go forward with them. It's similar to the so-called runway protection zone. In 2015, there was analysis of safety around the airport, and they identified something like 20 trees that penetrated this sort of imaginary surface of what the airport considered a zone of interference. 6 years have gone by with the airport not taking any action on those 20 trees, and the operations are still ongoing. There's been no issue with them carrying out, doing their flights. So now they're saying they've got to remove acres of trees just out of the name of safety. And it's like, well, if this had been a safety issue for the last 6 years, why weren't you doing anything about it to begin with? But now everybody says, well, if we say safety, everybody will just nod their heads and say we have to do this. And the issue is, by removing the trees and obstructions, they'll allow planes with heavier fuel loads to take off at lower altitudes. And of course, that will just exacerbate the problem we have with the planes, how low they are, and it will concentrate whatever effluent we get out of their exhaust because they'll be at a lower altitude. The quintupling, I mean, they're going up to like 130,000 square feet from 25 is what I think their current one is. And in 2016, they tried to get an approval to increase the terminal, and they were approved up to 45,000 square feet. But the FAA at the time said, because there was a second plan that was 64,000, and the FAA said, well, if you go to 64,000, we think that would have a significant impact of noise and it would require an EIS. So how is it now that the FAA looks at I think I saw on their website today, it was 129,000 square feet, more than double the one they said would not qualify. And now they're saying there's no significant impact on our area for them taking that kind of a step up in the capacity. So on their website, they've got their stuff of all the reasons why they're the good guys in the neighborhood, and they show the limited growth projections on their website. Well, at the same time, they just renewed a $100,000 per year contract with Volair Aviation to market additional air traffic to TTN. And Volair is very proud to be trying to get as much air traffic into that airport as they can. Okay, so they're speaking out of both sides of their mouth when they put up on their public website how small the growth is and this isn't impacting it, when in reality they're spending $100,000 a year. That was a renewal. That's not the first contract to keep marketing more air traffic to that airport. So the airport resists any attempt to understand their budget. The New Jersey folks who've gotten involved in this have developed their own nonprofit they call Trenton Threatened Skies. They have a great website. Yep.
We have a standing rule of a 3-minute limit on public comment. I know that you're still in the middle of some of the important information you want to share, but I would ask you to be mindful of that. You're a little over 3 already, and just try to wrap it up. Thank you.
All right. Yeah, we were hoping to be an agenda item and not be a public comment, but I'll finish up quick. So I'll just say Joe Menard is one of our panel members. He's working with the TTS folks who've been investigating the budgets. We'd like to look at what their projected budget and income implies for their growth rate, because we think it will contradict what they're putting on their website. And that just speaks to the fact that the analyses they're doing to say there's no significant impact on air pollution or noise for our community is a farce, because in fact, they're expecting to have way more traffic and they're counting on it to pay for these expensive projects. My last comment is to simply say thank you to Supervisor Lewis. He's been very energetic and proactive in writing letters, getting involved with things, and adding energy to this whole process. So I'll wrap it up there.
Thank you, Richard.
A question?
Sure, go ahead, John.
There's a motion on the floor to write a letter, and I was just going to call the question for a vote.
Oh, okay. Thank you. All those in favor of the motion, please signify by saying aye and raise your hand.
Aye. Aye.
Okay. Well, thanks to the board for continued support in this cause.
Thank you, Richard. Okay.
Suzanne, I'm
Yes,
sorry,
sir.
can I ask a question? I'm
Yes.
not trying to prolong this. So, I just want to make sure we're clear, like if there's going to be edits or what's going to happen.
I'm going to send the letter to Dan first, since he said he has scientific critiques. Ask Dan to turn it around as quickly as possible and then share it with the rest of the board so we can move this along. I'd prefer to try to hit the June deadline, the early June deadline, just in case. So that will be the ask.
Thank you. Sorry, Dan.
And Dan, I don't have to send it to you. John sent you the most final draft, so there you go. So turn it around. Thank you.
It'll be a great Memorial Day weekend activity.
Don't wait that long, my friend. All right, move it, because you have to give it to us, and then John and Fred, and Fred has, we're gonna have a lot of comments to go. So time is of the essence. We have other business. Item number 13, Kurt. Elbow Lane.
Elbow Lane.
I'm sorry, say again?
Elbow Lane.
Elbow Lane.
Yeah, okay, sure. I'd be happy. Thank you. So last year, the township was approached by Falls Township regarding the paving of Elbow Lane. The timing of that was leading right into their paving, and they held off on that. Unfortunately, they had a changeover in manager. They have a new manager who just approached us that they're about ready to go. They had provided some pricing to the township that they had already bid Elbow Lane out, and if we wanted to participate. In a discussion with the manager, he had indicated that understanding the budget implications of a last second ask, that they would be flexible with the township if we wanted to participate, to include that as a reimbursable amount that we could put into our 2022 budget this fall as part of that approval process. The estimate for that portion of the road that I've asked Andy to look at is about $32,000 or so in change. It would also require an intermunicipal agreement if the board was so inclined to cover issues of if there was problems with the road and what have you. If we would not participate, we'd be looking at one side of the road paved and the lower Makefield side unpaved. So it was a situation that was kind of put upon us that I'm making the recommendation because we'd have time to put it into our 2022 budget. It's not an incomprehensible amount as far as absorbing. So if the board would be so inclined, I know they're getting ready to stage here soon. I would need to communicate that back to the manager. So that's up to the board to decide. I'm asking for your consideration for that.
I have a motion, I'll direct, if the board will bear with me, would be to approve the paving program for Elbow Lane, subject to entering into an acceptable intermunicipal agreement after review and necessary revisions by the township manager and the solicitor for an amount not to exceed $32,237.50.
So moved.
Thank you, John.
Second.
Thank you, Fred. Dan, before I even say discussion, just go for it.
No, I'm thinking, so one, it falls, we all wish we would have knew about this, known about this beforehand. Clearly we're trying to make this work because for description purposes, for those watching at home saying, why are they doing this after we approved everything else? And why are we approving Elbow Lane after other issues we had trying to get other paving out there? So there's no frustration. Falls started this program. There's a new manager, I believe, just recently reached out to our manager. Elbow Lane's unique in that the ownership is not from point A to point B. It's more from curb. I don't even know if there's a curb there, but I'll say curb to center line is Falls. And then center line to other curve is someone else. So that's important. That's why I would support this, because it's a relatively small amount of money to get a pretty good benefit out of it, and we should be able to find some money next year in this. Now, Dave, question on the motion specifically.
Sure.
Does this motion allow you to enter into an agreement and then move forward with the paving, or does it just allow you to negotiate an agreement that we would have to then approve at a later meeting? That's the main clarification I want to get.
Right now, it would be just entering the agreement subject to Kurt and me drafting and negotiating, but if you'd rather have it so that we proceed, but the final agreement is to be approved by you at the June 2nd meeting, we can certainly amend the motion accordingly.
My only question on that is, given their schedule, we want to manage risk, one, to make sure that gets done, but two,
Sure,
to make sure that the agreement is something that we can all live with.
right.
And obviously I have lots of confidence in both of you to be able to come up with some agreement that works for us. But is there any risk involved with approving, not waiting to approve it, let's say after a draft?
Well, what you were doing is authorizing us to go ahead and hopefully have the confidence, but I'm certainly fine deferring the final approval until June 2nd. I just have to defer to Kurt in terms of what our role would be with respect to Falls, whether that's going to cause a problem. If it's not, that's fine too. I have no problem with that.
They were not able to quantify that. I tried to pin down a date and I could not get one.
Then let's go with the board approving it on June 2nd after Kurt and I have a chance to revise it and update it.
So
I would tell them we're going to participate. So if they were staying next week, we wouldn't miss it. And then we'll just have to do an
And
agreement.
that should work. We already have the amount not to exceed the motion as well, so.
So would the motion maker, John, how do you normally say this? Accept a friendly amendment?
Sure,
To,
and I would accept a friendly amendment.
as you
And
say,
the seconder?
and the seconder. Fred, I think you seconded it, right?
Yeah, the only thing I'm concerned about is they do not plan to stage before June the 2nd.
What the motion would allow us to do is to give them the go-ahead to do it, but the agreement would come back to the board to get on the record.
Right. It shouldn't hinder at least the starting of the project, if indeed it is going to start in the next 2 weeks. So.
And we should be viewed as trustworthy in the eyes of Falls Township.
And we should consider Falls Township to be trustworthy in the eyes of Lower Makefield. I will accept the amendment.
Thank you, gentlemen. Much appreciated.
Any further discussion? Yes, go ahead, Kurt.
I'm sorry, I'll be very quick. I just want to point out one thing, just so there's no confusion with the 5 or 6 houses that are over there. We talked about this a year ago. Falls Township's road program includes full curb restoration and sidewalks. For the property owners that are on the Lower Makefield side, that would not be part of this program. They had done that already several weeks ago. They had replaced the curbs and the sidewalks, and Lower Makefield residents are responsible for that. So that is the one distinction with this, that it's just going to be the road paving. It would not be those improvements on the other side, on the Lower Makefield side.
Thank you for that clarification. Any other discussion from the board? Any public comment?
There is no public comment.
At that, we'll call the question. All those in favor of the motion, please signify by saying aye and raising your hand.
Aye.
Aye.
Great, the motion carries 5-0.
Yeah, Kurt and I will look at that in the next few days, and obviously.
Let's see who can get it back for fast. That agreement or Dan's rewrite on the letter.
See which one we get done first.
Dan, we'll be done in the morning, so get going.
Hey, mine's free.
Appointments to board and commissions, anything? With that, there being no further business before the board, I wish you all a good night. This meeting is adjourned. Thank you. Be well.
Good night.